The first thing I thought when I did that conversion, I'm like, wait. What made you borrow such an amount of money? What were you doing with it? 6 billion. What kind of base is that? Ah, okay, £6 billion. And you are still poor? Okay, moving on. We listen, we don't judge. Hi guys. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Vivan Dakara. Today, we're going to be talking about an interesting story found in the book of Matthew, Matthew 18, and it's a parable about the unmerciful servant. So stick with me. Let's discuss. And I hope you learn something. So let's do this. Let's go. So I'm going to tell the story using it's a story of the unmerciful servant, right? It's the story about, and I think it's quite popular. But another thing with popular stories is that you might miss the details, and you might not be careful enough to see the lesson that particular story or passage is trying to pass across. So I'm just going to share things that I've learned from the story and how it came alive to me, basically, right? So in this parable, there's a man, a man that owes a debt, a large debt. So another thing I did for this story to like come alive and for me to really understand it is to do the conversion. When the Bible says something something denary, something something talent, you might not really get it because that's not the currency that you use, and we don't use that as a form of exchange, as a form of exchange of value here. So when you convert it, you can use your Google, your metric table, you can use ChatGPT. You would see the estimate. Now, this man, in modern day value, I'm going to use pounds. He owed 6 billion pounds. The first thing I thought when I did that conversion, I'm like, wait. What made you borrow such an amount of money? What were you doing with it? 6 billion. What kind of base is that? Ah, okay, £6 billion. And you are still poor? Okay, moving on. We listen, we don't judge. Moving on. Right. So that's the first thing that struck me. Like, what made you borrow such an amount of money? But okay. And then you so the person who you borrowed the money from, right, the rich man, he then asks you, okay, it's time to pay back, and you're like, oh, I don't have the money, I can't pay back. And he says, okay, I'm going to sell you and your family. Rightfully so, it was the culture. You will provide the money, or you will work for me, or I will sell you as slave. I feel like if he even sold the man and all his family members, he cannot still produce the £6 billion, but okay. And then this man begs and says, please help me. I need to be serious. So he's like, please, I can't afford to pay this money. Don't sell my family. Don't kill us. And he says, okay, don't worry. Ha! Hey! I'm sure he used his leg and his hands and his hair to mop the man's face, because how can somebody forgive you of a £6 billion debt? Like, tell you to go, tell you not to worry. That's a big deal. Oh. That's a big deal. And if you are thinking like me, like if you are picturing the story in your head, there is an expected there's an expected reaction you should have. There's an expected reaction you think that man should have, because you should be graceful, like you should be the most graceful person that probably exists on the surface of the earth, because who forgives such an amount? And then the story proceeds to tell us that this same man that was just forgiving £6 billion debt sees somebody that owes him, guess how much? £10,000 in pounds. What am I saying? That owes him £10,000, and he could not do the same. He doesn't even say, okay, oh, I'm in a good mood. Let me just extend, the deadline for payment. There are many other things he could have done, but no. He chokes this man, arrests him, tells them to put him in. Ah, for £10,000 when you were literally just forgiving £6,000 debt. And you see, before this story started, right, somebody asked a question about forgiveness. How many times should I forgive? And then Jesus replied 70 times, 7 times, and then goes ahead to share the story. And it's just helping us to see that if you've been forgiven much, you should forgive much, because that money is plenty. I can't imagine what's even going on in that man's mind, because I can't picture it. You were literally just forgiving so much. And then we are this man. For every time that we refuse to forgive other people, we are this man. That's what this story is teaching us. Because what God has forgiven us is infinitely greater than whatever anybody else could have done to us. It's a story about forgiveness. It's a story about forgiveness and love. And the first thing that we see is that Jesus paid the debt that we owed. Like, that is love, that is forgiveness at its peak. Because there's no way we could have paid that debt by ourselves, but somebody did. And the second thing is to show us that if we've been forgiven much, we have to forgive others much as well. Because what did you do to deserve God's kindness? Nothing. What did you do to be forgiven £6 billion debt? Nothing. So what is £10,000 that you cannot forgive? That's what the story is supposed to help you see. That compare the values. Do you understand? And so the same way you react when you see that somebody could not forgive somebody else after he was literally just forgiving this much is the same way you should see yourself when you don't forgive other people when God has forgiven you this much. And I'm just like, wow, wow, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Another thing is it helps us see the value. It helps us see the magnitude of debt that we owed. We were helpless. We were helpless. If I owe £6 billion debt today, but if you shake me, tell me, if you gather all the people that know me together and tell them to bring what is in their bank account, you can't pay it. And so you need to see yourself as that you couldn't have paid the debt that you owed. It was big, it was huge, and you were quite helpless. We were quite helpless until Jesus died to save us. And believing in that, it also helps us see that we can't work for it because there's no, in fact, when the Bible used those figures, it says 20 years of a talent or 10,000 talents, and a talent is about 20 years worth of wages. I'll add a screenshot of how my Bible, my U version puts it. And I'm just like, 20 years and you cannot still pay the money. So like you were really, really helpless. Helps us see that, and Tim Keller says, a quote from Tim Keller says that the mercy of God should make us merciful to others. If you really understand the mercy of God, you will be merciful to other people. So it's to help us see ourselves in the story and see what God is trying to show us about ourselves in the story, that we've been loved much, we've been forgiven much, and we should forgive others much. And I hope you learned something. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought when you read the book, and let me know what other book or story in the Bible we should talk about. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Peace.